The Premier League preview show is back, ladies and gents. And of course, the biggest returnee is this man, Edmin, is here as well. So people, let's get into it. Wagwan, everyone. I hope you're doing well and welcome back to Tereak Talks and welcome back to the Premier League show. Premier League preview show, might I add. Look, I can't even get it right in the first intro. 30 seconds in and I'm already fumbling the bag. Guys, it's been a long week, but it's been a very good week. We've had a very busy week in the football world. Of course, we had the FA Cup weekend and then we had the deadline day and we had so much going on there. And you know, Chelsea, which we'll certainly talk about and hear Ed's thoughts in particular. But guys, I do recommend if you haven't seen them and if you want to hear my thoughts and Roland's thoughts as well on the transfer window. And also we had Wilf on the Arsenal show as well as King. Go check those videos out there. We will touch upon it and we'll obviously hear Ed's thoughts as well, of course. So people, get strapped in. If it's your first time watching the Tereak Talks preview show, the Premier League preview show, you know what you need to do. Hit that like button first of all, but also get your predictions in the chat and into the comment section at the end of this video. If you want to be within a chance of winning prizes, please get them into the comments at the end of this video with all the games. We literally go through all 10 Premier League fixtures, which is going to be 11 this week because there is an extra game with Man United versus Leeds on Wednesday. So make sure you get them in. So the games kick off from tomorrow and you need to get them into the comments by the kickoff of tomorrow's game. And that's Chelsea versus Fulham. Guys, there'll be plenty of giveaways going out for you and just a real show of support as we're going to be approaching 2 years onto the channel in August. So we've been here for a year and a half right now. So guys, I really do appreciate the love and support, whatever time you've come in to show love to the channel. And there's a 2-minute intro of me speaking there, but of course we gotta welcome back my bro. How are you doing, Edmin?
Yeah, good. You've just reminded me that I haven't updated the table from you and CM from 2 weeks ago. So the predictions table, that'll be coming to your Discord server by the end of tomorrow. I'd say maybe use a bit of a work lunch break to work through what everyone said. But yeah, no, good to be back. CM did a great job, I thought, 2 weeks ago when you did it on a Friday night, and I was at swimming practice for Jacob and loads of other things that were going on, being a dad. But yeah, really glad to be back and glad to be chatting football.
Exactly. Big up my brother CM each and every time. He did a very good job holding the fort for Ed. And you know what a man, what a great guy he is. Go check him out as well, people. And yeah, it's great to have you back, my bro. And I'm looking forward to getting into it. But before we do, let's big up each and every one of you that is in the chat watching now. And big up to you guys that are watching afterwards as well. We got Bobby K in the building with a spud and that blue heart. Hope you're keeping well. Even though we're rivals, we still got love for each other. Big up my bro right there, Bobby K. Go check out the Free Spurs boys. We got DB with a pay. I saw it. I can see it in the YouTube chat. It's not quite picking up on StreamYard, but I hope you're keeping well, DB. Thanks for tuning in. Tezzy in the place saying evening chat. Good evening to yourself as well, Tezzy. It's nice catching you here. And Paxton, of course, he's got I saw this one too. It's describing it, the face, turquoise. Is it him drinking coffee? Yeah, you know, being late, you have to get the coffee in for the long show. You know how it is. And Tezzy, you're feeling tired? I am here. Hopefully this will perk you up and give you that little bit of energy for the evening. And not too much because, you know, you need to have a good night's sleep and whatnot. But for those who work on these late shifts, maybe we'll get you ready and started for the new day or wherever you're watching from as well. Big up yourself, Chris Stokes. He says, do you remember me, Tereak? Chris, of course I do. Hope you're keeping well, man. It's been a while since I've caught you in here, but of course, Liverpool haven't had a great season, so I understand. But I hope you keep doing good. And of course, we've got Brush. He's saying, big up T and Ed. Hope you're keeping well, Brush. Thanks for tuning in and big up to each and every one of you as well. Let's get started, and we're going to start with the first game of the weekend, which is that West London derby, Chelsea versus Fulham, tomorrow night game. And we're doing this on a Thursday, so if you're watching it it might be today. If you're watching it afterwards on Friday. Massive game. But before we get into the talking points of this game and Chelsea and Fulham, Ed's going to bring you the records and stats going into this one.
Yeah, so we have the West London derby, I believe, if my geography is right, I think, here with Chelsea and Fulham. And the last 5 meetings, it doesn't read that badly for Chelsea, with 4 wins out of the last 5 meetings between these two teams. And the form themselves for Chelsea, a little bit up and down, but maybe more down than up. But of course, they've definitely been spending some cash over the last few weeks, so which I'm sure you're all aware of. But their last 5 games, 3 losses, a win and a draw. And for Fulham, a bit all over the shop with 2 wins, 2 losses, and a draw in this game for these 2 teams.
There you go. And then in terms of the injuries for Chelsea, it's a long one. It's a big list. Of course, they've still got no Broja, no Pulisic, no Kante, no João Felix due to his last game of being suspended, no Dennis Zakaria, and then also no Edouard Mendy. Raheem Sterling, no, on the other hand, as well as Reece James, could be fit. They both could return with that thigh and knee injury, respectively. Enzo Fernandez, the big new signing, is just waiting on paperwork to get the clearance, so we may see him into the team. And if he is going to come into the team, most likely will be on the bench. And I'm sure if Chelsea are winning by that point, he'll get a huge round of applause. But even if he's not playing, I'm sure he'll still get that welcome onto the pitch from Chelsea. Ben Chilwell, another one who could be fit and available. They're most likely not going to be ready to play 90 minutes. So the same goes for Sterling, James, and Chilwell, that they'll be on the bench at best. But yeah, it would be a good return for Chelsea to get their 3 key players for sure, definitely. With Reece James and Ben Chilwell being their most creative players of late. And then touch and go whether these guys will be fit in Mateo Kovacic and Wesley Fofana. Most likely will be too soon. And it's completely the opposite for Fulham. It's only Neeskens Cabano who is injured. So they've got a fully fit squad for a high-flying Fulham this season. But Ed, we're speaking about Chelsea, the transfer window shut. We have to hear your thoughts on it. How crazy is this transfer window? Is it a good one, though, for Chelsea? Or is it a massive risk? Or is it both?
I think to answer that question, it's both, isn't it? I mean, the money that they have spent or will spend over the next however many years with the way they've structured the deals. I mean, with your football business hat on, they've bought players with big futures for big money and spread it over a long period of time. That is sensible. But part of you just, and especially for a supporter of a club, which, although to be fair, we're not the biggest spenders in the transfer window of Wolves. But when you look at the money that Chelsea, especially under Todd Bowley, spent, it's one of those cartoon, you rub your eye moments and you go, what? Because it's so much money. And there are still some risks to the Mudryk deal. There's risks to Enzo Fernandez. They are unproven still at the top level. Definitely, obviously, got skills and class for days. And of course, you would assume that they're going to come out on top of that. But it's big risks. It's big risks to expect players to come from lesser leagues into the Premier League. We've seen more well-rounded footballers come in and struggle in their first season or so. So I'll take that as a compliment, to be honest, King.
It's not the first time I've heard Callum Wilson as well, King.
So I think it's interesting. It's interesting. I was angry. I was so angry at the start with when all the deals are coming through and the 100 million on Enzo Fernandez, and maybe part of that is also because Wolves were linked with him before the World Cup, before the summer, and you think, what could have been? But it's also, I guess, what keeps Portuguese teams going. It's what keeps French teams going, is that they take the punt on these players from outside of the normal remit and hope that they have the big sell-on, and it's the Enzo Fernandez deal. The crazy thing for me is obviously that when they put the 120 million or whatever it was release clause on his contract, you know that is because A, they have to, because it's a legal requirement, but B, that's just future proofing, isn't it, for them? It's to say, this is a mental transfer. No one's going to go for it, but we have to put one down. And if someone does pay this, it basically sorts us out for the next 3 years, right? But the Premier League has money for days. Chelsea have the most money by the looks of it, other than obviously those owned by states. And they've come in and tested the waters and got very close to it. And you can't blame Benfica for taking it. And we're gonna, I guess, see how with Chelsea. The last thing I'll say on Chelsea, because I know I've talked on them a lot, the biggest outlier for me is Graham Potter is a project manager, and these players the money that's spent on these players doesn't fit that mold.
Yeah,
their profile does. Young, unproven to a certain extent, track record spotty but impressive. That all fits, but the money that you spend, they don't mesh together. At Brighton, they were cheaper players that you brought in.
Egos,
exactly. Like when they've brought in Matoma, they brought in McAllister. They were kind of that stepping block that Benfica were in the Fernandes deal, but that step's been taken out. So for me, I think the most interesting thing is how does Potter deal with it all?
Yep, very true, man. I agree. And it's not the last thing you'll say in Chelsea, because this will be this question I've got for you here. 600 million spent in first 2 windows. Surely when you're putting in across that amount of outlay, you've got to have expectations for this season, for the immediate future. What do you think Chelsea should be aiming for now this season, at the very least?
Well, I've just checked. I've pulled up the table. They are 10th with a bullet. They are 7 points behind Spurs in 5th, with no games in hand, 1 game in hand.
Yeah,
with the players they're buying in, of the caliber that they're buying in, they have to get Europe in some way, shape, or form. Champions League money would obviously offset their potential FFP issues. And I think people in our group chat, in the YouTubers that you're associated with, were pointing out the fact that they're very close to bringing FFP is the rumour, and they may be in a transfer ban. So maybe Todd has gone crazy in these last 2 windows because he might know that 12 months transfer ban's coming. So therefore, he's getting it all out the way now. But they have to get Europe. They have to get some kind of revenue back to even get close to balancing those books. So they have to be aiming top 6. They have to be
minimum. Yeah, and for me, I agree with Luke in here. Big up yourself, Luke, as well. Across the pond sports talk. Big up yourself, Luke. I know which Luke it is, and Moss is let us know here about the new channel, which will be coming back, and Goal Rush. So look forward to that. But I agree with Luke. In Chelsea, have to get top 4 at least. I'm agreeing with that, because you have to, with £600 million spent in the summer, and a lot of Chelsea's problems has also been through injuries too. Like there are 12 players out there that are injured or suspended, and how many players that they brought in as well. So I think they have to be aiming for a top 4, and 10 points. I don't think that's not unachievable.
No, it's achievable.
It's definitely achievable with that squad and that outlay, and
the teams in front of them. Let's not pretend that Brentford, Fulham, and Brighton are on a bit of a tear at the minute, with a much lower ceiling, especially now with what Chelsea have brought in. So they're definitely you can definitely reel them in, but it's still a big ask. It's still a big ask.
Absolutely, because these deals could have, some of them, not all of them. Of course, the Mudryk one, they had to be quite sharp on that because of Arsenal's interest, but you can wait out a lot of these deals and work on them throughout the season. And, we're going to come in for you. Let's get them sorted for next season when the price may be a little bit cheaper, or even today, if you was to sort those deals, get pre-contract agreements for an Enzo Fernandez, I'm sure they could have saved at least 40 million for just to get him in the next 6 months and whatnot. So to put that money there, you're bringing him straight away, and there's a reason, isn't there, bro? Yeah. There is. So you're obviously bringing them so that they can make an immediate impact. So guys, get your thoughts on Chelsea in the chat. Just before we big up each and every one of you that's in here, we'll talk about Fulham. Fulham, they're big rivals. They're above Chelsea at this moment in time. They've had an absolutely outstanding season, bro. But do you think now we're entering the second half, they can keep this up and maintain a decent level, or do you see him dropping like a stone?
Maybe not like a stone, but I think they're going to level out, aren't they? I think we've seen
Yeah.
that with Mitrovic not banging like he has been, and of course a slip here or there in a penalty here or there. They are two or three more points better off, and as is my FPL team.
Yeah.
If that doesn't happen, I think they'll level out. I still see them finishing top half, but their squad is still essentially the squad that got him up with a few extra people brought in. They are above their ceiling right now for how they're performing for me, but they are not where I had them I had them down in the bottom three with a bullet personally.
Yeah.
And I was nowhere near seeing them sort of doing this. And I think a lot of that credit needs to go to the manager. I think Marco Silva's done a very good job there, considering that I thought he was the weakest link. And I think he's proved that he's more than capable of managing this team and a team of this ilk in this division. I see them maybe leveling out at 8, 9, 10. Like you're talking about sort of Liverpool and Chelsea. We'll get to Liverpool later. They have to move up. And you would imagine that the money spent and the players at their disposal, you would start to think that the cream would rise to the top. But yeah. Fulham and Brentford for me in that middle part are more likely to drop than Brighton with the way they're playing.
I agree with you there. And I would say Fulham even more likely than Brentford until the Tony news, of course, because I do agree they are overachieving where they are in the table, but even overachieving in terms of performance as well. But that's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to overachieve. Every team has to do it to a certain extent to get good results. So yeah, massive credit to Fulham if they are able to maintain at least a decent level, not necessarily this point pace, then a fantastic season. And Marco Silva, I agree with you, Ed. I was also in the camp where I was looking at Marco Silva and saying, yeah, he's not great. And do you know why? Because of that Everton move. Yeah. And he's obviously been proven, apart from Carlo Ancelotti, one of the greatest managers of all time, Everton's a poison chalice that no one can really succeed at. So Marco Silva proving his worth when he came into the Premier League and gained such respect and acknowledgement for how well of a job he did with a relegated Hull, but a Hull that was looking like they were destined for relegation, and he kept them fighting. And what his early work at Watford, great, you know what, good manager, man manager, getting the best out of that team. Yeah. So yeah, he's been brilliant.
I think just quickly on Chelsea, I think just quickly look, their next 5 games, all of them are winnable. And all of a sudden, you might see why the money was spent when it was spent. So they've got Fulham, West Ham, Southampton, the next 3 games. Then they've got Spurs, and we've talked about Spurs all year. And then they've got Leeds and then Leicester. So all of those games they could go unbeaten in the next 5 and win, 3 of them, draw 2. All of a sudden, that's 11 points. That's that gap made up. And so I think maybe that's another reason why the money was spent, because I think they are primed now for a run against teams that are below them.
Yeah, exactly that there. I think they will have a strong second half to the season as well. And that's why me and Luke and I'm sure others will say that's why they need to aim for top 4. But bro, let's start off with you. You're returning, you get the first one on this. What's your prediction for this game?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with the Chelsea win. I think they're going to be a little bit buoyed by the players brought in. There's going to be a little bit of a bounce from that. And I think we've seen recently with Fulham that goal scoring has gone a shy at times. I'm going to go for a 1-0 Chelsea win. I don't see it being a classic, but I see it being a well thought out game.
Yeah, I hear that. With the injuries that they've got, it's not going to be easy getting back to and getting players and really kicking off this second half of the season. But Chelsea being at home, I think it will be a close game. But I also think Chelsea are going to win. I'm going to say 2-1. I like your 1-0 prediction though. because Chelsea, let's give one credit I'll give to them is their issue isn't defending, their issues in the other end and scoring goals. And I think they've got the fourth, like in terms of defense, in terms of goals conceded, they'd be fourth on that aspect, but they just can't put the ball in the back of the net. So yeah, that's the big thing for them. And now with those signings, you expect them to get the ball into the back of the net, and three of them being having a brand new front three at some point. So yeah, that'll be interesting there. So I'm going for a 2-1 Chelsea win. Let's see what you guys and girls are saying in the chat right now. Good evening to you all. And yeah, Moss bringing up these signings, Wolves, Forest again. I was just thinking in terms of Chelsea and Forest before the stream started. Could you imagine them two playing up against each other, bringing on bringing on the team bus and getting the spectators in there and everything? Yeah, it'll be it'll be like a school trip. It'll be like going to Alton Towers. That's what it will be like.
They're all holding hands as well, crossing the road. That's how much of a school trip it'd need to be.
For real.
They all need to pair up.
Yeah, do you know them end of year assemblies when you go to this one building with the school? Yeah, be sending in all the coaches. That's what it will look like for a Forest versus Chelsea game this season, which will be at Stamford Bridge the next time they meet. So that will be a real. Who knows who they'll pick out of that one? Tezzy's asking here, did I hear Mourinho has said he's willing to go back to Chelsea? You did, indeed, and. You know, Todd Bowley seems to have an itchy finger at times in sacking managers like he did with Tuchel, and then also with making the signings by purchasing players. I'm not sure if you heard this week though, Ed, but Todd Burley, he was the one that said get Enzo Fernandez because he saw him in the World Cup final and he played really well, of course, and he says, get me that man. So not really much scouting from Todd Burley there. But you know, he did the thing, the cardinal sin that you shouldn't do is watch a player based off of a World Cup and sign them. But yeah, Enzo.
So based on that as well, he's going to want Martinez, Messi, Mbappe. So yeah.
Exactly. I mean, I don't think, you know, Enzo Fernandez is a very good player, and I don't think he's a reactionary signing if you're basically signing him off the back of a World Cup, but it's not a great way. It's not a great way to be looking at things, is it? If you're an owner, to get me that player who's performed well in a tournament.
Instantly, I go to players like El Hadj Diouf, who have won the tournament,
James,
and base their career off that one tournament. And I'm sure Fernandez is the real deal. It's not like that, but it's not the best. It's not the best scouting network.
No, exactly that. Of course, he's the real deal because Wolves were looking at him as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Big up yourself, lad, as well. Saying big up T. Hope you're keeping good. What else we got in here? We got, will Chelsea or Liverpool make a run for the top four this season? Definitely Chelsea. And we'll get into Liverpool as well. I'll save my thoughts on that there. Potter's Tereak guy, kind of feel for him, yet and do not. I agree with you. I feel for him, and I also don't at the same time because it's the mess that he's walking into in that changing room with 42 players that they've got, 42 first team players, and four of them are out on loan. Yeah. Chelsea fans are really excited for obvious reasons, but they're not going to be easy to shift. And as one thing you brought up, Ed, there's no money around Europe. So they're going to be trying to sell these guys. Sorry, can't afford your wages. Right. And the players are going to be like, no, I'm not taking a massive pay cut. Send me out on loan. I want my wages paid in full. For goodness sakes, Tiamu Bakayoko is still there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So, and everyone talks about Phil Jones being at Man United. Bakayoko is still
Kennedy there. As well. Where was Kennedy?
He's only just moved this summer.
Yeah.
He
went on about 5 or 6 games and stuff.
Lucas Piazon.
Yeah.
So many. So their recruitment hasn't always been perfect in bringing in and selling guys. So Chelsea have got a big job to do. And as King says there, how will they keep the team spirit up when so many players won't even make the matchday squad? They won't even make the Premier League team, King. Because you have to, don't you have to pick like a squad of 25? Is it?
Yeah, they can only register 3 of the new players.
Yeah, that's for the Champions League. Yeah. And then in the second half, you can do like a new register. But obviously, like you can have some young players that are excluded, but they have to be homegrown
Yeah, they
in
have to be
certain things.
homegrown.
So their new Andre Santos, etc., they won't be able to be included in the B list either. So it is nuts what they're doing right now, and it's not going to create a good atmosphere around the club. King saying Fulham have been incredible this season, but at some point they get back to normal. Fair play to Marco Silva. Yeah, normal is if depending on what normal is. If it's where we think, me and Ed, we spoke about it, where we predicted them. I don't think they'll go that far. You don't start off that well and then drop that far down. Yeah, do you know what I mean? Yeah, me and Ed agree on that there. Early work at Watford is the whole job.
That's very true, Pax. You only really get about 4 months, don't you? So that is your tenure as a Watford manager.
Exactly. Tezzy also saying, I'll be curious to see what team Potter puts out with so many to choose from, a whole new 11. He didn't know his best squad before the transfer window. He has no chance of knowing that for now. So, yeah, maybe that will hinder Chelsea at some points too, knowing his best 11. Luke's gone for a 2-0 Chelsea. Moss has gone for a 2-1 Chelsea. Forest, yeah, they're going to have a 22-man game each. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, it makes sense, Moss. Respect our legend, Juve, Ed, or I'm coming for you. You went for a Senegalese legend. That's what you did. Of course.
I am still sticking with what I said, though.
Nah, he was, yeah. La Liga's biggest hypocrites, yeah, they are the biggest ones. They monopolized the game for a big part of it as well. Remember when they had the Ronaldo, Messi spending how much on Coutinho, how much on Griezmann, how much on Dembele, how much on yeah.
What was you going to say? La Liga's problem isn't the money. It's how the money's distributed, isn't it? It's Real Madrid, Barcelona, and then everyone else gets the crumbs. It's even worse than the English system, isn't it? With how they work everything out, and this is why teams like Brighton are doing really well right now, because they're also missing out that middle step, and they're getting the players from source rather than letting them go through sort of the quote unquote lesser leagues in Europe. And La Liga and the Bundesliga and Liga are all looking at the league, wondering how they can spend all the money, and how teams like Bournemouth can spend the money they're spending with 12,000 fans every week. But it's because, to some extent, he's shared out more evenly.
Exactly that. And just before we get into the next game, big up yourself, Shay. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you're keeping well, my brother. So let's move on into the next game, and that is is it this one? It is this one indeed. Everton. Yes, it was. I remember I sent it. Everton.
This is your thing, T, not me.
Everton versus Arsenal, indeed. And you know what? The mighty Gunners, top of the league, of course. If you didn't know, guys, I just thought I had to let you know, remind you. And not high flying, low flying Everton in that 19th position with new manager Sean Dyche. Is it going to be that new manager bounce? We'll have to wait and see, guys, but we'll give you our thoughts. But just before we do that, Ed's going to run through the records and stats for you here.
Yeah, I think this is my quick maths. I think this is the 220th time these two teams have met. Wow. I think it's the most played fixture in the top flight as well. I think Arsenal versus Everton, or Everton versus Arsenal. And for you Gooners out there, just so you know, the most ever league victories against one team for Arsenal is against Everton, beating them 98 out of the 200 times they played in the league. So the last 5 meetings, though, does have 3 wins, for Everton in there, with 2 losses for them as well. There hasn't been in the last 5 meetings. Everton's form, however, is pretty awful. 5 losses on the bounce. Arsenal's, we have the 1 loss in there, which is the FA Cup loss last Friday. But before that, unbeaten in more than 4, I believe, with 3 wins and a draw in the last 5 games. So form-wise, and of course, where are Arsenal again, T? I'll just let you do it again.
Top of the league.
against Everton, who, of course, are sitting bottom but one. So the form guide, barring the last 5, is definitely in Arsenal's favour, as is the history.
Of course, definitely. Love that, Ed. Thank you for giving us that little bit of confidence right there. In terms of injuries for Everton, they're going to have no James Garner, no Townsend, and no Nathan Patterson. And with Michael Keane and Ben Godfrey, of course, a lot of Arsenal fans remember him for that stamp on Tommy Assey's face in the last time we played them at Goodison Park. It wasn't the last time, because last time we played them, it was 5-0. Or was it 5-1? Can't remember. We battered them last game of the season. But Ben Godfrey, yeah, so he's getting closer, apparently. That's all the update we have on that there. And Michael Keane is getting fit and trying. I'm guessing Sean Dyche has said these words right here, because they sound very straight to the point, like Sean Dyche football is.
Get fit, Ed, get fit, get running.
Exactly like that there. I want to hear your thoughts on Arsenal signing Jorginho, their January window, and what's your thoughts on that, and the mess at Everton Football Club, and will Sean Dyche be able to keep them up?
I think quickly on Jorginho, I think it's a great signing, personally. I think you've got a Premier League player that can come in now, ready, all done and dusted. Arsenal need to strike now. All the chips are all in their favour. You know, everything, and I've said this to you privately, everything is lining up right now for Arsenal to win now, right? You've got Man City that are dealing with the Haaland factor. You've got players like Cancelo being a nuisance in the background. Pep has not had a great track record with big number 9, so that's all happening. Man United are rebuilding, doing very well, but still rebuilding. Chelsea and Liverpool, they're 9th and 10th, they're out of it. And Newcastle are new to this game right now, pushing. And Tottenham, it still beggars belief they're 5th. I don't quite understand it, and I say it every week. A bit like I did with Burnley last year. I kept saying, I don't know how they're in the bottom 3, because they always seem to do all right, but they're obviously not winning. So Arsenal right now, it's win now. Jorginho fits that bill. He's a good backup for Partey, with everything going on in Partey's personal life. Maybe he might be needed more than you think. He could play the Xhaka role to a certain extent, but not quite as well, not quite as mobile. And it's relatively cheap in this day and age. He's ready, proven. He wasn't getting played at Chelsea in the right system. Arteta's going to demand more of him than where he's been recently. And it wasn't that long ago he was in the Ballon d'Or conversation. He doesn't play a sexy role. He doesn't play a sexy position. Arsenal don't care. I think I said to you the other day, Arsenal win this league, and next year everyone else gets their houses in order. Newcastle buy more players. Man United are better. Haaland's fully integrated. You know, whoever at Liverpool and Chelsea get their houses in order. No one's going to go, do you remember when Arsenal won the league in 2022, 2023, but they bought that Chelsea player? No one's going to give a monkeys. So I think personally it's a great decision. He's going to play against the lesser teams like Wolves. He's going to play against Villa. He's going to play against Crystal Palace. He's going to give people rest in the last 20 minutes of a game or the first 60 minutes of a game. I think it makes perfect sense. In terms of Everton, their badge, their moniker is the community club, but they're not being run that way. It's being run dreadfully. They are too big of a club to be anywhere near where they are now, with their history, with their fan base. And the problem is, I think a few people, including myself, have maybe said that going down might be the making of them going forward. We might not see them again for a while, like Forest and Leeds, because they're all in completely the races. So Sean Dyche has got a very tough task ahead of him. The fact that it was between Dyche and Bielsa also shows for me that they didn't know what they were looking for. It's not a joined up thinking. They're two very different managers. Both of them expect you to work hard, but in completely different ways. For Sean Dyche to work, I think Dominic Calvert-Lewin's got to be fit for 80% of the games left, because what Dyche loves is a target man, and on his day, Dominic Calvert-Lewin's one of the best in the Premier League. So I think a lot rests on that and how he deals with it, and the fact that they're looking at Andre, the 33-year-old that's never quite made it in the Premier League.
Now.
Yeah, so they were looking at him and he's gone to Forest. Of course he has. Everyone goes to Forest.
You should have guessed.
I think I'm due a call up at some point. So the fact that they were looking at sort of a 33-year-old forward that's never quite made it at this level, I think says a lot. But I think, Luke, just to point, neither can I. Neither can I. I'm 38. I've seen the Premier League from start to finish. They've always been there. There was a brief period in time when they flirted with relegation most years, but never went. And they've always been there. And like I said, I think this Arsenal-Everton is the most played top-flight game, I believe. So they've always been there.
I think I'm right in saying this, but since I think Everton and Arsenal are the only teams not to be relegated from the top flight since they've gotten in there. So teams, of course, they've been relegated from in the lower divisions, but since they made it into the top flight, they haven't been relegated. Yep. So I think I'm right in saying that.
Yeah,
so
it was Everton, Arsenal, and Villa, I believe, until Villa went down.
Then
recently.
Villa got relegated. Yeah. I understand. So that's why you guys can't imagine it. That's why we all can't. With Everton, just quickly, I don't see hitting the ground. Sean Dyche hitting the ground running. Because at Burnley, everything was set up for him. Anything that he wanted, it would go to his way. I know he's not demanding too much, and Burnley at that time couldn't provide a lot, but everything was going Sean Dyche's way. At Everton, that's not how they run as a club. Frank Lampard wasn't backed, got sacked. The same happened with Rafa Benitez, and the whole situation. I think it is a poison chalice at Everton, so I don't really see him hitting the ground running. There's some decent players you brought right there, Calvert-Lewin. I think Onana is a good midfielder, and I think he will raise his stock, because I don't think Onana's technically good enough to play for one of the big boys in a possession-based side, but I think in a physical, workhorse. And exactly that. He's an athletic midfielder that will be able to play off the second balls, make the simple passes, plays it forward straight away. And if you're playing it to a target man, playing it into space, it's not the most complicated. And I think that will work for those types of players. And, look what he's done with Dwight McNeil. Got him a £20 million move to Everton. So I think maybe in that case, but there's still... I'm sure he might ruffle a few feathers that, some egos in that changing room that he never had at Burnley. But in terms of this game, I'll go first with the prediction. The mighty Arsenal, I'm going to go with a 3-0 win. I think it's imperative that we keep a clean sheet. I really want us to go on a run of games now where we can build upon our defence. Our defence hasn't been bad at all, of course, not the top of the league. And I think we're the second or third best defence in the league.
No, second by 4 goals.
By 4 goals. Okay, so second. So, we're second only to Newcastle. I want us to get to that first, because we have deserved it, I think, in terms of our performances. Reaching 50 points after 19 games is really good, and it's one of the best starts to the season. If we can build on that from there and really improve the second half, I'll be delighted. And that Jorginho signing, guys, I think he'll have a bigger part to play than a lot of us will think. And we'll get into some of the comments in here about this as well. What's your prediction, my bro, for Everton versus Arsenal?
As you know, I always write mine down. We've got the same goal difference, but I've gone for a 4-1 Arsenal win.
I mean, I'll love that. I'll love that indeed if that happens. Unfortunately, guys, I won't be doing a watch long as it is Jacob's.
I'm making him do uncle duties. So he's going to be playing and watching and coaching football with 8-year-olds instead of watching his team demolish Everton. If we're right.
Oh yeah, I'll still find a way to watch it, guys. You go. Yes.
We're going to be done before the second half kicks off. The party's finished, so don't worry.
That's what we like to hear.
Second half.
Exactly. So definitely, people. When Jacob thinks I'm cheering his goal, I'm like, no, Xhaka. But guys, I will be back with a reaction on Monday. I'm knocking maybe Sunday, but most definitely at the latest Monday for the Arsenal show, of course. So big up yourselves. Let's see what you'll say in the chat right now, people. What we have here is Paxton with the first prediction saying Arsenal to win by 3-0. That's a Pax, great minds think alike. Dycheball will take time. I do agree with you as well there, Pax. Martinelli has signed a new deal. Oh, so it's been announced. He announced that he was all accepted, but now the contract has been announced. So that's brilliant until 2027. That's brilliant. It is done and sealed after long talks. Gabriel has accepted all clauses, and Arsenal will now push for Saka and Saliba extensions. And then once we've done them, Arsenal, in terms of ideals, we don't give out these Chelsea ones, but I think it makes it even better. I think it wins for both sides, and both sides in being the player in the club, because we increase their money, we increase their, and they feel valued. But it will also mean that if it protects the player, if they did want to leave at some point, then they won't be out like kept held to ransom in 2 years' time. But then Arsenal, I think what we're working on is on a 2-year basis. It's like I'm hearing that Arsenal are having early talks with Ramsdale, and we signed him just last season because we're approaching that second year. And I think that's a good model to have, of course. But it also keeps pressure on the club to keep going, because if you can't have a bad season, you can't have a Liverpool-like season, because players will then start to, is this the right club? Are we going to move forward? Have we hit the peak, etc.? So I like the approach from the club in that sense, and it's less risk, because if it doesn't work out, then they'll be able to sell him as well. But I don't think those three it will be, because those are three important parts, but for other players that we may bring in. So let's have a look. Moss saying here, I was going for 2-1, but upped it to 3-1. Think Trossard comes on, which congratulations to him on his birth of his newborn, and it ends it tough. It will be a tough battle. Eddie, Martinelli, and Trossard with the goals versus Damari Gray, Jamaican superstar, representing Jamaica, but he's also from Erdington, I believe. So yeah, Blue. He used to play for Blues. He was there, come from their academy. He was like their Nathan Redmond. Luke says 2-0 Arsenal. Paxton saying Jorginho over Pirlo, and educate guys. He's not letting you go. No. He's not letting that Pirlo go.
No, I'm not going that far though. I would pick Pirlo over Jorginho. I just said Pirlo. I think we need to pump the brakes on how good people said he was.
Yeah, exactly. Moss saying, and this is a question to you, Ed: JWP or Jorginho?
James Ward-Prowse.
Neves or Rice?
They do different things.
So does JWP and Jorginho.
Yeah,
I don't
Neves,
think JWP is a deep line
Neves, because he has my heart. That's the only difference.
Exactly. Hey, next season it may be Rice. We'll see.
Well, yeah. Once Neves leaves me, and then Wolves, then it'll be he's dead to me and gone forever. But until then, it's always going to be him.
Luke, and I saw you on King's Show. I was watching that this morning as well from your stream from last night. And yeah, as he said in that show, I've calmed down now since the news first broke, but still concerned about a Jorginho and Xhaka pivot if it's needed. I would say if that was a pivot that was 2 seasons ago, or maybe even last season, I'd be worried. But I think Arsenal are such a well-functioning team right now. I don't think it would. I wouldn't play it in the big games, against a Manchester City, but I don't think it would be as bad as what people were thinking before, because we've got a great structure where everyone knows what they need to do and they can cover for each other's weaknesses as well. There's a bit of a myth that Thomas Partey is a midfield. When I say that he absolutely runs all over the pitch in that sense, I don't think that is the case. I think as Partey has got older, I think he's been a bit more wiser in his positioning, and he's not the type of player that's going to be bossing into slide tackles on the edge of the box, throwing his body on the line. I think Caicedo is more like that, and really winning those 50-50s. I think Partey is a lot more intelligent, and I think Jorginho is exactly like that in his positioning. Of course, Partey's got a bit more physicality to him, and and has a bit more pace than Jorginho. But Jorginho does have decent defensive stats because he uses that up there. When you're a player like Jorginho, to have the career that he's had, he's never been quick. He's never been the fastest. He's never been the strongest. Very similar to Mikel Arteta in that sense. But yeah, and he's won the certain things. He's got a great mind, reading of the game and mentality as well. T, could you see Arsenal try Partey, Jorginho and Ødegaard in some games with Partey in that Xhaka role and J20 in the number 6? I like the thought of that. I do like it. And I think it brings good balance. But what I'm thinking of is that since Partey's, I think he's changed his game since he was at Atletico Madrid. Atletico Madrid Partey would do that. But I think as his body, he's got to grips with his body a little bit more as he's aged. I think he's not as marauding as a midfielder as he was at Atletico Madrid when he was that box-to-box up and down. Tried to do it at Arsenal, pulled his hamstring and thigh about 20 million times. So, yeah, I think he's kind of adapted his game a little bit. So that kind of adds to that Luke question there. Close, 3-1. King's gone for a 5-0. Arsenal and not far off Ed's score. It's Arsenal. It's time for a proper smashing, and we don't concede away from home. That's true. That's our best defensive games, in fact. I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure on this weekend as well. Possibly for the Man City game. I'll let you know. I'll let you know about that. And King's also saying, yes, I do think Xhaka, Jorginho, Ødegaard, don't forget Zinni slips in and for help as well. Yeah, I agree. And Ben White and Tomiyasu, if he's got a goal there. With what we've got in here is Lee saying John McGinn or Jorginho.
Who are you saying? John McGinn of this season. Not the John McGinn of this season. Done anything?
No, not this season. No, but there was a time where I really loved.
John McGinn. Yeah.
I thought it was
dynamic player. It's a strange drop off for him. I think.
Mm-hmm,
I blame Gerrard.
Yeah, exactly. I thought I'm holding my hands up. Hot take. I thought he was more impactful than Jack Grealish, John McGinn for Villa. That's all I'm saying.
I think he was more important.
Yeah, exactly. He had more of an impact for sure. Even though everything went through Jack Grealish. The other game he's doing is on. That's Bobby on Bobby's channel. Oh, nice. And yeah, let's move on into the next game, which is that game indeed. Spurs versus Manchester City, which is the headline game of the weekend. I thought I'd do it second because Everton comes first. So if Arsenal do the business, it puts extra pressure on Manchester City. But before we get into the chasers, I call them, this is the chasing game. Spurs trying to chase Newcastle and Man United, and of course Man City trying to chase the mighty Arsenal. Ed's going to hit us with the records and stats.
Yeah, so Spurs versus Man City. It may be a good one for you in terms of what your North London rivals can do, because they have won 2 of the last 5 games. Their form, Spurs' form, is 3 wins and 2 losses in the last 5 games. Man City's is the same, but in a slightly different order of 3 wins and 2 losses. And just one of those random things that I looked up earlier, only 3 of the last 35 meetings between these 2 teams in all competitions have ended in a draw. So less than 10% of the games between these 2 teams have ended in a draw in the last 35 games. So that's quite a big sample size there if you're doing your predictions.
There you go, right there. In terms of the injury news for Tottenham, Richarlison, he may be back. He had another small adductor injury, not abductor, it's a different part, but same area, groin injury. Sorry, I was just being a nerd there. Pape Sarr, he's out as well as Lucas Moura, who is playing for the under-21s, and he played against Arsenal the other day, in fact, Lucas Moura. So he seemed to be shut out of the side. For Arsenal, of course, no Mohamed El Nene, and that's why I think we did bring in Jorginho, and so was heavily chasing Moises Caicedo because he's out for a long period of time, and he might have played his last game for the Arsenal. But Arsenal are there talking about maybe extending his contract for a further year to help him with his rehabilitation. Reece Nelson only returned to training today. So yeah, all this week, let's say from what we know for sure, this week returned to training. So I doubt he'll be fit and available for this one here after he suffered that hamstring injury. Emil Smith-Rowe, he wasn't pictured in training after he picked up a small thigh injury, which is definitely likely after surgery. We see that happen a lot. And let's just hope that it is a small thigh injury for him. And of course, no Gabriel Jesus, but who is back on the grass and he's back to individual training. So that's a good sign. Maybe another month, I'd say. So March, 1st of March, we may see him back and integrated back into the side and match day squads. But the big one, I would say, that is touch and go, but he was pictured in training, is, of course, Thomas Partey. He picked up a slight rib injury, but thankfully it's come out to not be. What? Hold on. What am I talking about? Arsenal Everton?
Oh.
Guys.
What was going on there? You need to get Arsenal out of your head. I was sorting stuff out, and I wonder what the heck's he talking about when you said Thomas Partey.
Why am I talking about Arsenal? Gosh, Manchester City, Phil Foden and John Stones. They're the only ones who are out injured, but Phil Foden is likely to return. And John Stones is the one who's out injured. Moss is saying, what happened? Time travel?
I think we went back in time. I was sorting out all the spreadsheets and stuff, and then when you said Thomas Partey, I was like, I missed that on deadline day. That would have been big news.
Why did I start speaking about Arsenal's injuries?
I don't know.
Did I speak about them earlier? Oh well, but yeah,
you did.
Oh, fair enough. I have no idea what I did there, but yeah, those are the injuries. And as Paxton says here, in terms of Conte,
yes,
rivalries aside, hopefully Conte recovers soon. And yeah, he's going to be out for a period of time, but let's hope that he returns back to full health. As anyone that's going through that situation. Conte, you know what, he's had a rough time of it, in all fairness. You know, with managing Spurs, that's a little light-hearted joke there, but no, seriously, with the passing of Gianluca Vialli as well, yeah, we do hope that he does recover soon as well. But Ed, Spurs versus Man City, not Spurs versus Arsenal.
Nope.
This huge game. Of course, I'm cheering for the mighty Spuds in this one. How do you see this one going?
I think we've said before that one team the Man City do tend to struggle against is Spurs. I still, as we keep talking about Man City every week, have concerns over their defence. Harry Kane, Kulusevski's coming back fitter and fitter every week. There's a chance that they're going to pick up some goals, but just as I have concerns over Man City's defence, I think Spurs' defence is absolutely dreadful. And the fact that they're still playing, some of the players that they're playing at the back who are long past their best, such as Ben Davies and Eric Dyer, for example. And the biggest issue for me with Spurs is their goalkeeper, who I thought was past it a good few years ago, and he's still dropping balls into the back of his net. I can't see them keeping a clean sheet. But I also can't see Man City keeping a clean sheet, because I think Harry Kane is a force unto himself, and he's desperately pushing for that record. He's desperately pushing to sort of single-handedly drag Spurs where he wants them. So I think I'm going to go early on this. I think, like I said, the last time Man City blinked, I think they're going to blink again and get another draw. I'm going for a 2-2.
That'll be a draw for Man City. Is a loss in this league, and how well Arsenal have done. It's been quite similar to how Liverpool and Man City have been. Whenever a team drew, it was almost like a defeat, because the teams were going such a run of games and winning runs. That would be huge, especially if Arsenal win. 2 massive games for Man City coming up, by the way. I don't think it's their next one, but they've got Arsenal coming up soon on the 15th of Feb. So
yeah, they've got a double game week that week.
Yeah, so 2 massive trips to London in February for them. Spurs, Man City. of course, Man City haven't won at Spurs yet at their new ground. They haven't won a single game. Spurs, this is their type of game, though. And I'm hoping that a backs against the wall performance where they just sit back and counter. Danjuma looking on fire. Son returning with the goals. I'm talking myself into it. First goal so massive. And I know it's a football cliche. It's because the reason why it's big, because if Spurs get it, then of course it gives them motivation. It brings the home crowd into it, and because of that atmosphere, it is quite on edge at the moment. If Man City get it, it could turn the stadium quite toxic. But I'm hoping Spurs do get it, and that they will win by 2-1. I'm saying it. Spurs are gonna win by 2-1. Do I believe it? Absolutely not. But do I want it? Yeah.
My only question was heart or head. Is that? And I think we all know the answer. The fact that you gave their injury news as Thomas Palmer, other players from Arsenal. I think that says it all.
It's true. It's true. Spurs and Arsenal. I'm just trying. Yeah, it's bad. I'm honestly Arsenal on the brain. I can't stop it. Spurs 1, Manchester City 4, says Paxton. I hope you're wrong. I hope you're wrong in that one. Spud City, Haaland brace, Kane 1, 2-1 City, I guess. Yeah, most likely Haaland will bag a goal against that defense. Hate to say it, but Spuds, do us a quick favour. Take some points off from City. I know they had us believing when they went to the Etihad, but capitulated in the second half. Indeed. Lee saying the Terminator, you know what that is, people, will bag another hat-trick. 4-1 City, agreeing with Paxton right there. Pax says the bold fraud hates defensive teams, but should still get past them this time. I'm hoping he doesn't. Juventus are considering selling Paul Pogba to terminate his contract. They are fed up with him. Wow, what injuries? I'm guessing he picked up another injury by the looks of it. Big up yourself, Wilf, in the place as well. Sup, boys, to be honest, only dropped in to drool over Ed. Now, big up, lads. We'll drop my predictions in the Discord. And if you can, bro, drop them in the comments as well. Really do appreciate that too. And that goes for everyone else as well.
Bless you.
Thank you. You could tell it was coming. And yeah, so in terms of them predictions there, not a lot of people backing Spurs as I wish, as I hope for. But yeah, got another one coming, guys.
Bless you again. I'm bored now. Stop doing
Thank you. Big up yourself, Vibes, for tuning in as well. Thanks for tuning in and stopping by. It says big up the TTF. And that's
turned up at the right time.
Exactly. Vibes, if you don't know, the Man United fan, we're talking about Manchester United next versus Crystal Palace. Ed, hit us with the records and stats for this fixture here.
Yeah, I think Man United, 5 meetings, has 2 losses for Man United in there, 2 draws. I think Will Zaha, has been a thorn in his former club side, I believe, in some of those games. And 2 draws, 2 losses, and just the 1 win for Man United in the last 5 games. Man United's doesn't include their convincing win of last night when even Harry Maguire played. So add a win onto that. So it would be in the last 6 games, 2 wins, 2 draws, and 2 losses, 2 of each in the last 6. Palace, not great reading for those eagle-eyed fans who I believe are live now, with 2 draws and 3 losses. One of those draws was against Man United, I believe, recently, if memory serves me right. From the Amazon Day, was it? Amazon Days that we had all the games on? That was one of them, wasn't it? Because I think I watched it, which means Amazon.
Yeah.
And I think Man United at home, unbeaten in the last 8 as well, if you're thinking about that for your predictions.
There you go, people. In terms of the injuries for Manchester United,
Thomas Partey, Martinelli.
You beat me to it. I was going to say that for Crystal Palace. But yeah, so we have Donny van der Beek, who is not an Arsenal player. Of course, he's still out. Christian Eriksen, which is why Vibes is in the chat, saying he doesn't like Andy Carroll and he knew he was a waste man since he picked the number 2 shirt due to that. And Ed's not happy either. You can see Ed's face with that choice there. So no Christian Eriksen. He's going to be out until late April or early May. Scott McTominay, he is a touch and go whether he'll be fit. Apparently, he picked up an injury against Palace. So yeah, January the 31st. So I think he'll be also next game against Palace. Yeah, so sorry. Yeah, he just says no specified injury there. So he's touch and go whether he'll be fit and available. Of course, no Jack Butland. He won't be on the bench because he's unable to face his parent club. No Diogo Dalot. It might be too soon for him as well. And for Crystal Palace, what I can see is Joachim Anderson, he won't be fit, as well as James MacArthur, Wilfred Zaha, who picked up that injury, was in the next game against Newcastle, that hamstring injury, and no Nathan Ferguson, of course. Ed.
Just as night turns to day, Nathan Ferguson is always injured.
Exactly. And it feels like ever since I've been doing this show, James MacArthur's
I think he has been. I think he has been, both of them. I was going to say that with your connection to Eagle Eyed Football, I've never really looked at Palace properly until then. And for the fact that we do this show every week, it's like those two, I've heard of them more now than I normally would have done. And they're always injured.
Yeah, it's true. And I was talking on Eagle Eye Football, and some people were like thinking maybe you can get James MacArthur back. He's 35 and he's been out for 2 years. Yeah,
you don't heal after 35. Trust me. Not in the same way.
Hey, I wouldn't know. Not yet, anyway.
Not yet.
But I'm sure I will find out. But yeah. So in terms of this game, I'll go first in terms of my prediction. Man United high flying, being really consistent performances. I know they haven't faced the most difficult of teams recently. Well, they have played Man City and Arsenal and gave good games in that one. Good 45 minutes against Arsenal, I thought, and then was defending and working hard as a team in the second. Beat Manchester City, and then they're beating the teams that they're supposed to, and that was Man United's problem last season. I do expect them to go on and do it again. Palace, I do think they will have a stronger second half to the season, reinforcing that midfield with Ahamada and Sambi Lokonga gives them a physical presence in there, the energy that they'll need in Ahamada, and then Sambi Lokonga, someone to pick up the ball from deep, help Doucouré, and I think that having a Doucouré will be the perfect foil for Sambi Lokonga because he's not having to do the Doucouré work, which he was having to do at Arsenal when he was getting games. I think he will play more as that 8 that we saw him in pre-season, and why Arsenal fans were a little bit more excited about the prospects of Sambi Lokonga this season. I think he will have a good loan there, and he should hit the ground running, being as he should be adapted enough to the Premier League in that position. So it will be an interesting one, but I think this game will be too soon for Palace to pick up a good run of momentum. So I'm going to go with a 2-0 Manchester United win. Keeping clean sheets as well at home is important for United. What's your thoughts on this one, bro?
Yeah, I don't think I disagree with any of that. And I think without their talisman, you said Zaha's likely not going to play, right? So
6 weeks minimum with his injury.
So I don't see them troubling the scorers. To use a cricket analogy, I went for a 3-0. I think Man United definitely on a roll. They're defensively getting more and more secure. I don't think they're going to miss Dalot. I think Wan-Bissaka. I've always thought he was brilliant as a defender, but I think he'll be fine against some of the more attacking players that Palace have got, and he's not necessarily needed right now to be the flying fullback that he maybe Anthony needs in this game in particular. I've gone for a 3-0 United win, especially at home.
Oh, 3-0. Marcus Rashford. Is he in your FPL for the double game week?
Yep. I know Vibes has put it in, and I think Moss has talked about it too. The triple captain chip is I've been hovering over it all week.
True, it's a good point, really. When are you going to use it? In fact, unless Haaland gets a double game week of Forest and
but Pep, and I will talk. I think King's put a question in about Man City. Pep's a weirdo. He might not play Haaland in a double game week. There's more chance of Rashford playing both games than Haaland for me.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good point. That's a very good point there. Yeah, maybe Rashford in this type of form is the safe option. I might do it as well, guys. I might do it. So let's see what you're saying in the chat right now. Paxton is a very confident Man United fan, as he should be at this moment in time, but he's a very confident Rashford man in a Rashford quadruple right there by Man United winning by 4 goals.
You know things are all coming at Rashford when that awful left-footed shot that turned into an assist for Fred.
Yeah,
that's you're in a purple patch right now.
Yeah, exactly. That it's your day and it's your time when you're doing that right there. That was King's score for the Spurs City game. I thought he was doing a me then, King. Sorry, my bad. Rashford triple captain. I'm ready, says Vibes. I'm thinking about it as well, Vibes. Me too. And then what? 2-1 City. Oh yeah, that's Vibes' predictions there for earlier. 2-1 City and 3-0 Arsenal. Let's have a look. Question to the panel. What do you all make of City not getting anyone but letting go of Cancelo? Not enough noise about it. If that was Arsenal, there'd be a lot of noise being made about it. But with Pep, though, he converted Fabian Delph into a solid left back, in all fairness to him. And he was the first one to convert Zinchenko into a left back. So I wouldn't be surprised if you saw that Maxim Perron or someone like that they brought in from Argentina. If he'd get a few games or, do some crazy formation and move Aymeric Laporte. It's a big risk, of course, not replacing Cancelo because he was one of their best players last season from a creative standpoint. So that's another bit of creativity taken out of the side. And I don't think either of their fullbacks that they'll have at the moment are that creative. Rico Lewis is pretty good, of course, but beyond him, Kyle Walker's not a creative one. Ake is much more of a stabilizer at left back than he is a creator. He's a risk, but if there's one person that can sort it out, it is Pep Guardiola. You got anything to say on that, bro?
No, I think not enough noise has been made about it because I think Cancelo made himself quite difficult to be around, what sounds like it. And Pep doesn't stand for any of that, regardless of who you are. He did the same with Ibrahimovic, didn't he? Just get out, you're not wanted. And let's not forget what I just said about Pep. Pep's a football pervert. He's seen Rico Lewis, and that's what he's focusing on now, isn't it? He's seen something in this kid, and he's going to go for it with him. And you don't want those types of people around your club. T, how many of those making noise in the background, ruining things, and Pep doesn't have any time for that. And if they are going to keep this chase up, you can't have people moaning because they're not playing. It's a squad game. You'd have been back in Champions League games in a couple of weeks, Cancelo. There was no need for you to be doing what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Loving it in the chat, football pervert.
Well, he is, isn't he?
He is. Yeah. He is indeed. And especially talk about Rico Lewis, a young child. I mean, he's a young...
whoa. I wasn't going. I said football.
Yeah, exactly that there. Vibe says 2-1 Man United, winning right there. King saying a 2-2 draw against Crystal Palace. Wow, that would be a massive loss for United. And another draw. They were gutted after that draw at Selhurst Park, so they'll be even worse at home there. Moss saying 3-1 Manchester United, 2 for Rashford and 1 for Weghorst. And unfortunately, as Ed dropped into the chat here, Zaha is out indeed. Now finished. Oh man! But guys, we'll move swiftly on to the next team, and that is Newcastle.
Is one of the next chasers.
Yeah, the next chasers right there in Newcastle versus West Ham. Contrast of a year ago this time. I mean, West Ham were chasing Europe and knocking on the door of the European football slots, and Newcastle were trying to get out of a relegation dogfight. The roles have reversed, and even better for Newcastle reaching a final. But before we get into that, Ed, hit us with the records and stats for this one.
Yeah, quick quiz for you in the chat while I just go through the numbers. How many games unbeaten are Newcastle right now? And if you don't know, if you do know, keep it quiet. But I'll ask you at the after I've done these. So the last 5 meetings between Newcastle and West Ham, last 5 meetings is 2 draws, 2 wins for Newcastle, and just a 1 win for West Ham. The last 5 games for Newcastle shows 2 wins either side of a draw, and for West Ham they have a couple of wins on the bounce now, arresting some of that slide with a loss, a win and a draw in the last 5 games. So I don't know if anyone's answered in the chat yet. So, just vibes. Just vibes.
Yeah, if you know, you know.
Yeah, if you know, you know. But see if you got a guess.
Oh man, okay. So is this excluding the Sheffield Wednesday defeat, like that one?
Yes, yeah. We're talking in the league.
I think they've only lost once in the league, haven't they? And that was against Liverpool. So I don't know how many games ago that was. I don't know. I'm going to say 10.
Add another 5. It's 15 in a row in the league, unbeaten,
wow.
I believe. If the website I was getting the stats from yesterday were right.
Wow. Fair play. Yeah, Vibes will go with 10 there. 15 games on me. Fair play to them. Indeed.
Far too many draws in their column. 10 wins, 9 draws, and just a 1 loss. But incredible, only 11 goals.
11. That's ridiculous.
11
goals in not 19, 20 games, is it? Is it 20 they're on? Oh, that's ridiculous. Yeah, that's a joke. That's conceding what? Just over 1 goal every other game? Nah, that's mad. Newcastle. For me, I'm going with a Newcastle win. But what's your prediction, bro? I'll let you go first. Steve.
Yeah, again, not trying to go with too much on my heart because I could do with West Ham dropping some points. So if we pick up anything against Liverpool, which we'll talk about next, I'm going to go with, I think, what seems to be a relatively comfortable 2-0 Newcastle win.
Wow. Yeah, you got to do. The thing is, with Newcastle, they don't score too many goals.
Yeah. My first thought was 1-0, but I like to say, I always do it. So I always put
I'm going
first.
I'm taking it because you seem to be doing well this season in predictions. So I'm taking your 1-0 win right there. And who to grab the goal? Anthony Gordon. That crazy move. What? Oh, sorry. He's made a good move and he's got a good move for his career. I think he'll do well at Newcastle. I think he'll do better than what a lot of people think, but there's ways to go about it. Horrible. Yeah. I don't. As a academy product, shocking. What's your thoughts on it, bro?
Yeah, he hasn't covered himself in any glory there, has he? And I think he's going to do well. I disagree slightly with what Roland was saying. I think on your transfer deadline day, not in the point of that. I don't think he's going to be a star, but I think his dynamism from midfield will be a difference maker in the games, like I talked about for Jorginho for Arsenal, against the mid-level teams, the lower-level teams, and in Europe when he needs to come on to bring some energy. And I don't think you can underestimate the fact that he's English. And with the new rules after Brexit and how many homegrown players you need to have and the limits that we have, my own team, Wolves, are struggling with that, which is why we're bringing in 30-year-old goalkeepers that played for Bristol City and Brentford when they're in the Championship. That's why Man City have Scott Carson and all the other people that they've had. It's just to keep ticking those boxes of homegrown players. So don't underestimate teams picking all those mid-level English and British and homegrown players to just stash away and keep in the squad. But I think he'll be a useful rotation squad player.
Yeah, there you go. And basically, guys, the advice that you should take from Ed is if you're not very good at football, but you love the game, become a goalkeeper because you might win a Premier League trophy. Yep. Just if you're English, of course, only if you're English.
I think with all due respect to goalkeepers, I think that's where they all end up, isn't it? They realise you move further and further back, don't you? Sometimes when you're playing as a kid.
And it's true, you're spot on. And then also think because Scott Carson, Lee Grant, he was at Man United. They got Tom Heaton.
Heaton right now.
Yeah, it's mad. like the
chilling.
English goalkeepers. Arsenal, Man City had Stuart Taylor. Do you remember him?
Yeah.
In goal, former Arsenal goalkeeper, in fact. In Taylor. So, it's mad. It is mad indeed. Let's see what your predictions are in the chat for the Newcastle game. Moss has gone for a 2-0, same as Ed Wilson and Almiron. Almiron, the goals have dried up, and that's why I've taken him out my team and put Matoma in instead.
I never got on the Mickey train.
Didn't you?
No, Jack Grealish still. Oh, it's only 22 points now. I'm reading you in. I'm on a Grealish train. Always have been. Always will be. Me and Slice Veg.
Yeah, the greatest thing since sliced veg. Yeah, we play. I mean, me and Lee was actually chatting about Grealish today about the Football Encyclopedia one. Guys, you must have you watched my channel enough. Yeah,
don't know what that means.
We play 7 times before the final. Newcastle play 3. Wow, the amount of games United have. You might have this Arsenal end to the season where you just gas out at that point, and you might have a load of players out injured. Of course, you're hoping not, because it was heartbreaking when we went through it, and we just loaded a lot of our key players and hamstrings were broken, and then we had to play Newcastle, and we got battered in a 2-0 defeat. Shout out Pope, he has been fantastic. Yeah, Pope, the man, keeper of the people. Lee saying it, Ed deserves an MLTD spot with all these bangers, football pervert and dynamism. Gary Lineker.
I don't think Match of the Day would let me say football pervert. There's a few sideways glances when Micah Richards and Ian Wright get excited. So I'd imagine me coming on there saying football pervert. I think I'd be hooked up during one of the sessions.
Hey, I've seen Gary Lineker's been on there half naked. He can't say anything. Yeah. But fair play, but big up vibes. He's gone for a 3-1 Newcastle win. And yeah, Miguel Almiron, MLS superstar. And there is another MLS potential superstar. And he's gone to Villa, but they're not next, people. So sorry. We're talking about a better club in the West Midlands before them. And that is Wolverhampton Wanderers versus Liverpool. Big one now. Big one, because Wolves. Where are you in the table?
17th, mate. The gap before. I am minding it because we are quite a way away right now. We are 17th, and weirdly confident that we'll be fine.
There you go, exactly, Julian Lopetegui. But before we get into that, bro, hit us with the records and stats for this one here.
Yeah, so the last 5 meetings includes just the 1 draw for Wolves in the midst of 4 losses, but that is, of course, Liverpool completely and utterly robbed us in the FA Cup. Form, 2 losses, a win, a loss, and a draw for Wolves. Liverpool's very up and down, as is their form in the league, as we all know. 2 wins, 2 losses, and a draw. And just the last little tidbit that I had from the last 3 meetings between these 2 clubs in the league have all ended 1-0 to Liverpool.
Interesting there. And of course, the injuries is mad. I know I didn't really run through them for the Newcastle and West Ham game, but it's a bit mad at the moment for Liverpool. And Wolves has not really made any major injuries, not Sasa Kalajic, Traore, Neto, and Chiquinho, of course, but everyone else is remaining fine. Am I correct in saying that, Ed?
Yeah. And Joao Gomez, Sarabia, Cunha, all ready to go.
Yeah, that's big. You know what? I think this will be an interesting game, I will, because Liverpool's injury list is mad at the moment. Of course, they've got no Carvalho, no Van Dijk, no Firmino, no Canate. Now he's a new one added to the injury list. No former Wolves man in Jota, no Arthur, no Luis Diaz, and Nathaniel Phillips. He may return for them as well. But before we get into the chat, which is getting me laughing there, let's move on into the predictions. Is it your turn first, or is it mine? In this one,
I think it is. It is me. I think on this one.
Yeah.
I had a brief conversation with Paxton in the Discord earlier. He put it to me, and I thought you wouldn't put that in the comments. I'd say I'd snap a 1-1 or a 0-0 off you right now, but I didn't know Liverpool's injury list was that bad. I'm gonna say Wolves win this game, and I'm gonna say it's 2-1.
2-1. You got to back it. Liverpool are awful right now.
I know,
And
but we're 17th too.
yeah, but
So I don't know. I don't. Me and another one, J Lo. That's what I call Julian Lopetegui.
yeah.
The confidence I have in him and the rock star it knows no bounds right now. I don't quite know what's going on.
Hey, fair play. You know what? Fair play in that one. I've got to back Wolves. You know, I think they will, because everything isn't going well for them right now. The defense looks awful. Midfield, they can't even score any goals. Yeah, I think I'm going going for a 2-1 as well. I think that's what the same one as you, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Nah, you know what? Just to be different, I'm going 2-0. I'm going 2-0.
Oh,
Yeah.
clean sheet. Clean sheet.
Yeah.
That'd be even better. I'll give you my point if that comes up. You can have 4 points for that. I don't care. I'll be so happy.
Fair enough. But that's a clean sheet. Yeah. You wasn't able to get Felipe because of that reason, wasn't it? The homegrown quota. That's why you ended up going to
That's one of the rumours, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, for real. But I'm guessing, yeah, I'm gonna go for a 2-0 Wolves win. It's that bad at Liverpool right now. The fans aren't happy due to no signings. The club is in upheaval with their new owners. Well, new owners hoping to come soon.
Do you know what it is? I don't think it's this as simple as this, but I think they're just broken from chasing and outplaying Man City for 4 seasons.
Yeah, and that quadruple last season.
Yeah, I think they've just literally, the midfield's a mess. I think Klopp admitted that he should have refreshed it a lot sooner. But I just think we're at the end of this cycle now where they've just struggled to keep up with Man City and to do what they've done and win that title, get over that. Ferguson always said, you win a title, the hardest one's the next year.
It's true, man.
Because
I agree.
You pinnacle. I just think that they're broken right now. I just think they're... And then obviously everything else off the pitch and injuries and stuff is not helped.
Yeah. Do you know what else is broken with Liverpool led? The inhalers. Let's move on to the next comments right there. Shadow Gomez, is it now? Edmin, thoughts? What's your thoughts on? Have you seen anything of him? You know, little YouTube clips or anything like that?
Well, the YouTube clips for him are just like rough tackles are getting booked. So if there's anyone out there that loves a bet, I would suggest that you put anyone on the other team and him to get a booking if he starts. Yeah. He's a destroyer. Moss is what I've known and what I've seen. All the stats say that he puts in like 15 important tackles a game and ridiculous stuff like that. He's a destroyer. He's already, he turned down basically double the wages from Leon because he said to Wolves that he was coming to Wolves, and then the Brazilian club Flamengo held out for a better offer from Leon. They matched Wolves' bid, so he said, "Well, what's all the hold up? I want to go to Wolves." I said, "I'm going to Wolves." We shook hands. It was a done deal. So he's a destroyer, and my hope for the end for this season, because maybe neither of these two players I'm about to mention will be in the old gold next year, but I'm hoping that once he's fit and raring to go, because it's their break at the moment over in Brazil, he will do all the horrible work. So Neves and Nunes can just go and provide some attacking impetus and give some of our attackers chances to put away because we just don't create.
Yeah, that'll be interesting, you know, if he can be the foil for them. So, you know, Neves getting further up the pitch, closer to goal, get his wonderful passing range on the goal, and Nunes to glide. What a dribbler. I think he's probably one of my favourite midfielders. Like, he's one of my favourite midfielders to watch in the Premier League right now. Do you know how many times I've watched that dribble against Chelsea? Yeah. That run is a joke. That's one of the best runs I've seen from a midfielder, and that's not even. I'm not no hyperbole in this. He was ridiculous. Needs to work on his passing. I think that's not the greatest for a midfielder, but his dribbling is.
I think he's one of these new ball progressing midfielders that is a relatively new thing, where midfielders don't necessarily need to pass that insightfully. But I think that will come. But yeah, watching him run with the ball. If you don't watch Wolves, and I don't blame you because I don't want to watch it sometimes, and I've supported them for over 30 years. If you do ever just get to watch a game live, there will be one run from Nunes that just makes you go, wow. So it's always worth it.
Definitely. Paxton says 1-0 Newcastle and 9-0 Wolves against Liverpool. Lee right here saying bigger than Villa. These were my comments in all fairness. I take all my comments back about MOT.
I even said I am minding the gap. I'm fully aware of where we are right now.
Yeah, true. Yeah. It was my fault, Lee. I had to put my little dig at Villa. Jimenez triple hat trick right there. You're going, Paxton's fully backing his boys today. Wait until we get to Brentford. 2-1 Wolves says vibes, want to see Ed happy and Liverpool further in the mud. Of course, I agree with you there.
Appreciate
vibes.
That.
Wolfland come on, but somehow Klopp winning 2-1. Wow, I think that's the first one back in Liverpool here. Raul for Lobos and Gakpo and Salah for Liverpool. Wolves will stay up as well. Vibes, I agree with you, and Ed does too. Wolves 2-2 draw, says King. Moss also agreeing with us there, Ed and Vibes, saying that Wolves are gonna stay up. Tariq is right. Klopp sold his inhalers to get laser eye surgery. Big up yourself, Kyle in the place. He says, I'm a United fan and I think Arsenal will win the league. Hey, Kyle, you're more than welcome here, especially with that kind of chat. I appreciate you jumping in here as well. Hope you're keeping good. And I think United will finish in the top 4. Oh, and that might make you stay as well. But I do think so, indeed. Surely, Tariq Talks, you can win Jacob over now with top of the table to entice Jacob to turn red. I've been trying.
Forest versus. Let's talk about Forest versus Leeds. No way. No way. He's completely and utterly brainwashed.
He is.
You've tried.
Yeah, to be fair, me and Ed have been trying to get him to, this Ronaldo versus Messi debate, and he's still sticking to Ronaldo. So I've got no chance.
I'm close to disowning the kid. Ridiculous.
If he wasn't a Wolves fan, he would do. So yeah. But there we go. Forest versus Leeds. I know Lee's going to be in the chat. How are you talking about Forest versus Leeds above the mighty Villa? Right. There's relegation talk here. So Forest versus Leeds.
Forest have won 2 European Cups and just not just the one.
I like this. I like it. Forest versus Leeds.
So,
Ed,
Forest versus Leeds. Yeah, the last 5 meetings, all in the Championship, of course. Last time these guys played each other in the Premier League was, of course, 1999, when your host here, T, was less than a year old. Last 5 meetings, last 5 games for Forest. Doesn't include the loss last night against Man United. So 3 losses, 2 wins and a draw in the last 6. Leeds, I think the wins here are against lower league opposition in the FA Cup. So take that into consideration. 2 wins, 2 draws, and a loss in the last 5 games. And it is a big bottom of the Premier League.
There you go, right there. Let's have a look into the injuries for both sides. If I talk about Forest's injuries, we'll be here all day because they've got not half of their squad, about a quarter of their squad out injured at the moment. In Awoniyi, Richards, Henderson, which is why they brought in Keylor Navas, Niakate, Jack Colback, Chris Woods, their new signing, is out with an illness, but he may return. Ryan Yates, who's also picked up that same illness. There's about a few players who've picked up illnesses at Forest. You can understand why. There's got so many players there. Biancone, Kiyate, and Morgan Gibbs-White, who is out with an ankle injury by the looks of it. And then for Leeds, who have made some interesting signings in this January transfer window, they've got a few injuries. Rodrigo, he's the latest one who's out for 2 months after he suffered ligament damage. Their top goal scorer is out, as well as Forshaw, Somerville, who's been an impressive player this season. Robin Koch with 5 yellow... What? Is he still out with 5 yellow cards? Oh, yeah. I'm sure he's meant to refresh. So I'm not sure if that's totally correct there, guys. Liam Cooper, he's touch and go whether he's going to be fit. Tyler Adams and Stuart Dallas. Right. Ed, predictions right here. Forest versus Leeds. Is it my turn to go first? It is, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It
The
is.
Wolves one. So yeah, I'm gonna go with. It's close. I'm gonna go with Leeds. I think they're gonna have a good second half to the season. They're a bit inconsistent though. When I say that, the one moment they looked brilliant, not when they played against us and Liverpool, they were on fire. They're probably the best team that we faced. Like in terms
It was
of
a very good performance.
In terms of that one individual performance, not the best team, of course, but the hardest game that we had, and we were very fortunate to pick up a win there. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Leeds just to nick it away from home. What about you, bro? I'm gonna say 1-0.
Yeah, okay. I've gone for a 1-1 with this.
Probably should have went with
I struggle at the minute with where Wolves are to not just want everyone around us to just draw. So there's no sort of disruption to the status quo. But yeah, I think Nonto is a threat for Leeds on the break. And Forest, to me, seem like an away team. They're all set up for quick on the break times, and their home form's not been great, despite the fact that the ground is big. The fans are happy to be there. So I'm going with a 1-1, and of course there's another shed load of players for Steve Cooper to bed back in again. So I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt because they are relatively doing well. They've picked up some more form recently, so I'm going for them to pick up a draw. But some of the highlights yesterday in that game made them look like the Championship team I've been calling them all year. And I still struggle to see that at the minute, but giving them a little nod with the fact that they have upturning form and at home. So I'm going with 1-1.
1-1. I wish I went for that draw now because that's what Paxton's gone for in a 0-0 draw. Jacob knows ball with that Ronaldo shout, said vibes. With a Stu there too. Big up yourself, Aubrey. Hope you're doing well. Says big up everyone in here. Hope you're keeping goods. 1-1. Moss says, I think Nyonto and Brennan Johnson, same as Ed there. Another loss before we play Leeds twice would be nice, says Vibes. Of course, he's a local lad to Manchester, so he feels that Leeds rivalry, and always nice seeing Leeds lose indeed. Literally quarter of the squad, so about 15 injuries. You are correct, Moss, indeed. He's about 15. You're not far off there. Leeds been unlucky, but maybe not as good if no Adams. Will McKennie be straight in? Good question. It's hard really to know if players that are coming outside of the Premier League, if they'll come straight in. I'm sure he will. I'm sure Jesse Marsh, will trust him.
I think needs must with what you've just said as well with the injuries.
I forgot about that. They've got a fair few injuries themselves. That's true. Danilo I wanted for us. Forest, they've got him. Watch him perform this weekend. Hey, if they get relegated, Moss, but he puts in a good second half of the season, maybe we'll still might get him. We'll have to wait and see on a cheaper deal. Lee saying here, Tereak, this agenda has to stop. Forest Leeds before the mighty Villa. Where's the unsubscribe button? I'm sure you won't be the first. I know I've made plenty of people do that. It's probably a lot of Villa fans as well. But now you are coming up soon. Trust me.
You're up next.
They're up next. So that's a perfect segue to bring in I can't say that. Aston Villa. I said it once. I'm not saying it twice. Against Leicester. The West versus the East of the Midlands. And Ed, hit us with the records and stats for this one.
Yeah, so last 5 meetings has 2 wins for both teams and a draw. Villa's form much, much better since Unai Emery came in with 3 wins, just that strange loss in the FA Cup and a draw. And for Leicester, up and down as they have been all year, really, with 2 wins, 2 losses and a draw.
Interesting there in terms of the injury news for Aston Villa, and they are right next to Arsenal, so I better not make that mistake again. Is Diego Carlos, of course, he's still out, but he may return by the end of the month, so that could be a big timely return for Aston Villa and Unai Emery. John McGinn, who is ruled out, but he could be back for this game. And Emery said, I think he will be back with us for the next match against Leicester. So, yeah, John McGinn, who we're speaking about there, if he can return back to fitness and form, that'll be brilliant for Unai Emery. Jed Steer, who is still out there, backup goalkeeper. And Luca Dean. Well, Jed Steer's like their third choice, one of the English ones that you keep for that we spoke about earlier. And Luca Dean is out with a shoulder injury. For Leicester, who haven't had a good second half of the season so far since returning back from the World Cup. So their injury list is a bit like Leeds, is just as long. Justin, Ndidi, Johnny Evans, Ricardo Pereira, he's always been on here as well since we started the show. Boubacar Samare and Ryan Bertrand are definitely out. We may see the introduction of Harry Souttar, the new Harry Maguire, the Australian one. I like to think he's very similar in terms of being massive in frame and stature at the back, and not particularly quick on the turn, but that means he may do well for Leicester. And Jamie Vardy, who is going to have a late fitness test and could return this weekend with a buttock injury. I wonder what that was. But yeah. I know.
That was left field. I was not expecting that.
Same. I know. This show's gone left today. That's what it has to.
It has a bit.
But Ed, so it's my turn to go first. Aston Villa versus Leicester. Do you know what? I was speaking to Lee when Emery first came in. I thought, you know what, he may have a good start, but then it will all go downhill, as it kind of similarly did with Arsenal. But he's done really well. He's done even better than I thought he would have done, in all honesty, with Aston Villa. And he's made them quite assured at the back as well. And the Villa players have really responded to Unai Emery. Hasn't really been backed in the market as his early form should have. But I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing if Villa can really invest and spend time in their summer recruitment, because that's when you get better deals. That's when you get better players are available most of the time. You're not always overpaying for certain players. So if Christian Purslow and the recruitment staff of Villa are getting that sorted for Emery, could have a decent time. And, you know, Emery's a cup manager and it could be a good, bright future for Villa. And I do think that they will win this game and they will continue that good form. But my only worry going forward for Aston Villa is they've got no forwards. Selling Danny Ings, bringing in that Duran from Chicago Fire. I'm sure Ed's got a Duran joke he's going to make soon.
No, time that.
But yeah, so in Duran, so maybe there's a lot of pressure on the young lad there. But I'm going to go with a 2-1 Aston Villa win in this one here. What's your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I've gone for a Villa 2-0 win in this one. I think it's relatively comfortable. And I think just quickly, I think Villa 10, 11 points clear of the drop. No real danger of flirting with it. Why spend any money right now and overpay like a lot of teams have done? I think it's quite sensible to sort of keep the squad as it is. I think, although I get what you're saying about goals, Danny Ings' just availability is awful. Yeah. He's already injured, so why not cash in if he could from a desperate West Ham bid, which is what it appeared to be, because I think it's a slight overpay. I think it's been quite sensible, really. I think they've got a better coach than they had. They're comfortable in the middle of the table right now, so why overspend if you didn't need to?
Yeah. Exactly that there. So, yeah. What was your prediction for this one? What was it? Sorry? 2-0 Villa. There we go. Right there. Emery, Villa, all good. Yep. Doing a fantastic job to begin with. Paxton back in his East Midlands side in Leicester with a 3-2 victory there. That'll be a massive victory and timely for Leicester because they've had the most weird season. Started really bad. Brendan Rodgers sacking, all that talk. And then they had a really good run before the World Cup. But then, yeah, it's not returned well. And it's all to do with James Maddison by the looks of it. So maybe him returning will help them a lot. Moss saying 2-1 to Aston Villa. Watkins and Bailey with the goals. And then the big Aussie Souttar early header goal right there. He was brilliant in the World Cup, to be fair, against Argentina in particular. Lee saying another Emery masterclass incoming, 2-0 Villa with a Prem's best CDM with a goal. And I'm guessing he's saying a Boubacar Kamara, who has been very impressive for them as well, I'll say, on a free with a goal. And then for McGinn with his massive butt, speaking of buttocks. I
was going to say, I did think if there's anyone that's going to have a buttock injury, I would have gone with
John
McGinn,
McGinn.
personally.
Hey, if you listen to Yaya Toure, he said that's why Hazard was so good, because he used his bum a lot of the time. Let's move on into the final games. How many more we got
We've
left?
got three. We've got three, but one of them is just
Oh,
a Man United
oh yeah. So yeah,
game, I
we'll
think.
quickly run through these ones. Apologies if you are fans of Brighton and Bournemouth and Brentford and Southampton in these ones here. But Brighton versus and Hove Albion versus Bournemouth. Ed, hit us with the records and stats for this one.
Yeah, last 5 meetings, both Premier League and Championship, it does go back that far. With no draws in the last 5, with 3 wins for Bournemouth and 2 wins for Brighton. Brighton's form, if you didn't know, they're in a great vein of form right now and sit 6th, unbeaten in 5 with 4 wins and a draw. Bournemouth, not as good, dropping like a stone right now with 4 losses and a draw in the last 5 games between these two teams.
Yeah, the only real big injury concern for Brighton is that Evan Ferguson, he is a slight doubt after that horrific challenge from Fabinho last week. I don't know how he got away with that, but yeah, he's the only real big one. They've also got others that are due to be out. Alexis McAllister, he's out with he's definitely out with 5 yellow cards. I can confirm that. Levi Colwill. Adam Lallana, another one who's a big, heavily feature on this list as well. And then for Bournemouth, who have been quite busy in the transfer market, we may have to speak about them at some point in a different stream, but they've got a few players out injured with David Brooks, Lewis Cook, Marcus Tavernier, Ryan Fredericks, Junior Stanislas, Dominic Solanke. But maybe the return of Philip Billing will help with their form, because he's probably been their best player this season.
Yes.
In Phil Billing, and their biggest threat going forward. Ed, Brighton versus Bournemouth. What's your prediction here, and why is it a Brighton win?
It's a Brighton win by 3-0 I've gone for. I'm not on the Matoma train in FPL, but he is a fantastic player, fantastic story as well. If you didn't know where he came from, he did his dissertation on how good he is at dribbling. Basically, it's incredible. And just quickly on Bournemouth, I think I've gone for 3-0. And just quickly on what we said earlier, the fact that Bournemouth, with a gate of 12,000, that's not a slight on this club, and they're able to spend the money they're able to spend, just shows the financial power of the Premier League. I think they're a great case in point of showing that some clubs in the Premier League just have money because they're in the Premier League and not because of status or history or anything else. And we'll see how they get on. They have spent big.
Exactly. Nearly signed Zaniolo. Nearly. One of the hottest Italian prospects out of Roma. And not a small club there, but 30 million.
It's nuts, isn't it?
Exactly, nearly, but only because they decided to go for other targets, because he wasn't sure about going to Bournemouth, which, I don't blame him. It's good beach there, but I'm going to go with a 4-0 Brighton win. Big result there. I know I'm being a bit harsh. I think we might be all underestimating Bournemouth a little bit, but we'll see. We'll see on the weekend. Paxton's gone for a 1-0 Brighton win, and big up yourself, CM, who's in the place as well. And guys, make sure you do get your predictions in the comments afterwards. 2-1 Brighton. Think I'm going with young Ferguson if he's fit. Mitoma keeping form and going with goals. And Bournemouth, maybe that new Utara or Kiefer Moore. Utara, he's been doing really well at the moment for. He had a good first half of the season for Lorient, who had a brilliant start as at the start too. Big up yourself, Amy, who's saying good afternoon from the USA. Hope you're keeping well, Amy, and nice catch you in here. And Amy's gone for that. Now, this is probably one of the craziest ones, but I love it. A 6-6 draw in Brighton. I won't mind that if Matoma can get all 6 of them. And then the penultimate game, which is Brentford versus Southampton. Ed, hit us with the records stats for this one here.
Yeah, so for Brentford versus Southampton, if I just find it first, we do have last 5 meetings, 3 wins for Brentford and 2 wins for Southampton. Brentford's form, and if Paxton hasn't already, I'm sure he'll be putting Ivan Toney to at least score 1. 3 wins out of the last 5 with a draw and a loss. And of course, Brentford sitting very comfortably in 8th and making me eat humble pie. I had them going down at the start of the season with Southampton, who are currently in the bottom 3, and their form is 3 losses and 2 wins. And one of those is, of course, the shock win against Man City in the League Cup.
There you go, right there. Any major injury news? Southampton, they've also been active in the market in that there. Brentford, not really any major ones apart from no Janssen and no Onyeka for them. And then for Southampton, who are rock bottom of the league, they've had a busy January transfer window. Also, no Carl Walker-Peters, which is probably a big loss for them. And that's the biggest one on their small list with Gineppo and McCarthy on there too. So, Ed, is it your turn with this one? It is indeed. And then
it is, yeah.
The last one. So, Brentford versus Southampton. What are you going for here? And why is it another Brentford win?
Yeah, it is going to be a Brentford win. I'm going to say 2-1. And my boy James Ward-Prowse to get the one for Southampton. But I do see Brentford just having too much. And I know Southampton have had a slight upturn in form, but I don't see them getting out of their bottom 3 anytime soon. And I'm hoping that as well, because that's one more team that will be below my team.
Yeah, true. Yeah, that's a good point. So Brentford, who have had a brilliant season so far, up there. One of the teams above Liverpool and Chelsea. So I'm going to go with a Brentford win. I'm going to go with a 3-1 Brentford win in here too. So let's see what you are all saying in the chat for this one. Paxton has got a 9-0 Brentford win with Ivan Toney with 8 goals and an assist. He's not. If that is the case, Paxton, you do quite well with your predictions. So I may as well stick him up top in my team. Amy is going with an upset here, 3-1 Southampton. I do see where you're coming from, though. They are one of those teams that, you know, are very up and down, and that kind of is the best way to describe one of the youngest teams in the league. In that sense, falls within the stereotype of young footballers being quite inconsistent. But they do have some talents in there, you know, like a Romeo Lavia, Samuel Dozy, who I've been impressed with. And then me and Ed spoke about this, I'm sure, before in Che Adams. You never know which one he's going to turn up. And just a quick one there. Another reason why Everton are a shambles. They signed a striker who can't score goals in Neil Maupay. And so what they try and do, sign a striker who can't score goals in Che Adams. That got rejected. Right.
I wondered if that move was a bit like the Newcastle buying Chris Wood last year, just taking a player from a rival to just kind of destabilize the team more than sort of what he might be able to do. That's what it felt like to me.
Yeah, I hear that. I do hear that indeed. Moss has gone for a 1-1, and then Peony, there's only one Peony, is in the chat. Big up yourself, Peony. He says a 7-7 draw right there. Southampton might as well screw up the table. Yeah, not for Red, who is a Wolves fan, Amy, but for us neutrals, I don't mind that indeed. The final game, which we'll just quickly touch on, Man United versus Leeds. Do you have records? Oh, he has records and stats for this game in particular. Ed's already ran through the form of both sides, so it may as well just be the record of this game.
Yeah, so the last 5 meetings doesn't really badly vibes if you're still in, with unbeaten in 5 for Man United with 4 wins and just the 1 draw.
Prediction for this one. Is it? I said it's my turn, didn't I? Why am I forgetting? So, Man United, got to go with the United win, unfortunately. And I'm going to go with a tight one, though. I think it's going to be a 1-0 United win in this one here. Do you think Leeds can pose a bit of a threat? Am I risking it? Leeds? No, I'm changing my mind. I'm going 3-0. Sorry. They concede a bit of goals.
So it's going to be tight, but 3-0.
No, yeah. No,
and Thomas Partey's injured for Man United.
No, I've changed my mind. I don't think it's going to be tight. I've just thought of it. No, 3-0 Man United. And PD has gone for a 4-1. What's yours there, bro?
Yeah, well, I think I was going for a tight one because you've talked about Leeds sort of up in their game for the bigger teams. Rivalry that the fans will be up for, even if the players maybe aren't. But I am still going to go with Man United and backing Man United and the form they're in right now. But I think I see Leeds scoring, but I don't quite know why. So I'm going with a 3-1. 3-1.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
So slightly closer.
3-1, yeah, slightly closer, yeah. Amy, yeah, we did do that one earlier on. This is because it's a double game week, you see, so we're just doing this as the last one. So yeah, we did do that. Go check it out and just have a quick rewind, and you'll see it there. And Amy says, as an American, all 3 US players will score: Adams, McKennie, and Aronson. Hey, and Jesse March, he's carrying the flag well.
And right now, will America's team be Wrexham or would it be Leeds? That's the big question.
That's a good one. Exactly. Are you going for Ryan Reynolds and Ron McElhenney's Wrexham, or are you going for Leeds and Jesse Marsh with the 4 Americans in there as well? Paxton showing his loyalty to Manchester United with a 19-0 win. Marcus Rashford, Martial Weghorst, Sancho quadruple. And Paxton, I know Man United have done well, and he's got him in dreamland at the moment. But fair play. You know what? You must be enjoying it. You've gone through since the start of the channel, you've gone through a rough time, Pax. So yeah, man, but you're going through a good period now, aren't we? Just like we are both. Because I remember one of my first watch-alongs was Arsenal. Well, my first Arsenal watch-along was losing to Chelsea. The second one, I nearly had a meltdown when we lost 5-0 to City.
Was that the Man City one?
Yeah, yeah. That's
a special game in my family's. We were out for a meal, and we were watching you because you were new, and we thought we need to watch it. And then just watching you go mental was the best. If you haven't watched it, honestly, it's worth searching out just to watch the meltdown of T saying, "All we've got is average players," and then a lot of them are now top of the league.
No. Mustafi, Kolasinac, Cedric, Chambers, Leno aren't all here. And they were all a part of that. And Aubameyang as well. But yeah, it's great. It's how great 12 months is as well, guys. 2-1 Man United, Rashford, Bruno, and Gnonto, the Super Italian with the goals there. Arsenal, American owners too. Exactly. So yeah, you could support Arsenal. Sorry for me, Rashford needs to stay healthy to keep up on the top for Man United. Yeah, definitely he does. Definitely their biggest player right now. So yeah, that's our predictions and thoughts for this one here. Guys, we have reached the conclusion of the show. We really do appreciate you staying with us and really appreciate you all for tuning in. And for the new subscribers, hello, welcome. Really appreciate you guys for tuning in. And if you haven't subscribed, make sure you do hit that subscribe button. We do bring this on a weekly basis or whenever the Premier League is, because we didn't do it last week. So yeah, we do this on a weekly basis, me and my bro here. So yeah, it's a pleasure doing it, and I really enjoy it as well. Make sure you do get your comments in and with those predictions so that you can be within a chance of winning multiple giveaways at the end of the season as we get closer. I'll announce that there because we haven't got too long left of the season now. It's only a matter of months away. So it always is a matter of months away, but yeah, it feels even closer than this season's just going flying by. Forgot that we had a World Cup in the middle of it as well at times.
And what a World Cup final it was.
I know, one of the greatest finals we've ever seen. But bro, is there anything else left to say?
No, just can you beat Paxton to get predictions in the comments, like I always say? And if you're not in the Discord, get in the Discord because the next day or two I'll have everything updated there as well.
Link is in the description below. And Peony, you're not the only one. Me and Ed was talking about this before the stream. Yeah, it's YouTube. It's not me. This is one of the reasons why I be late. You know, it's one of the good excuses I give for being late is because we try and let the stream get out for people and see if it does start to send notifications. But yeah, my apologies, guys. It is down to YouTube on that one. But yeah, guys, appreciate you all once again. We will be back possibly with the Spurs game on the weekend, but we'll definitely be back by Monday. Appreciate you all. Hope you have a good start to the weekend after the working day tomorrow, and peace. Take care, guys.